this works.
So we don't see you through.
That was through Skype.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But I haven't heard from her, so I'm not sure. Okay, I think let's do the prayers. I'd like to do it in English again because I really want us to know what it is that we're saying. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of the Buddha and offer it all to you. By this day, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam. And then we do the refuge prayer. We do that one 3 times. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. So let's, we didn't do prostration. Okay, we'll do meditation. And if you come to ACI 1, you recognize this meditation. And if you haven't, that's no problem. So just find yourself in a comfortable seat. See if you can recall what we spoke about last time about the posture on how to sit. If you recall. Making sure that your spine is straight. Crown reaches up, shoulders are relaxed, shoulders are level. Your head is straight. Tongue is resting on the spot between your, or where your teeth and gum meet. Lips are relaxed. And then you can have a little bit of light coming in. You can cast your gaze downwards. But it's okay if you rather close your eyes too. It's up to you. Main thing is that you're comfortable and you can sit here for a little while. And then you can start to just breathe here, being aware of your breath. Just inhaling and exhaling, just watching your belly rise and fall. Allowing yourself to become present. Placing two people in front of you, one that you don't particularly like and one that you really like. Now if we think about the life we've had before this life, assuming that you buy into past lives, we can understand that we've had countless of lives before this one. And the friend and the enemy that are sitting in front of you have been both to you countless of times. Your enemy has been your best friend, has been your mother, your brother. And the person that you like has been your enemy before. So therefore, we must try to see them as equal. And see all beings as equal. Because they all have been your friends and your enemies before. And all anybody ever wants is to be happy. Just like you. So in that regard, we're also all the same. We all want to try to avoid pain. We all want to be happy. Now, when we look at all beings, we can also recognize that they've all been our mothers before. And the thing about mothers is that they are so kind because they gave us life. And that's the biggest thing, biggest gift that you could ever receive. You know, how you see yourself now. It's all made possible because of your mother. And it doesn't matter what your relationship is at this point in time with your mother. Some of us don't have a strong relationship with our mother. That's really beside the point. Or whether your mother is alive still or not. Just the fact that they give you life. They give you this body. They give you the chance with this body to reach enlightenment. They went through hell to put you on this earth. Excruciating pain. They did that for you. Without your mother, you would not have lasted for hours. So remember their kindness. Remember their kindness that they carried you for 9 months. Suffered pain, gave up her freedom for you. You would not be alive without her. And because I feel this so strongly, recognizing this, their kindness, we feel like we must repay their kindness. What can we do? How can you ever repay the kindness of a gift that big? But you start to feel that urge to give back to your mother and to all the mothers that came before. And think about loving people like they're your child. And love is wanting to give all beings happiness. You're feeling obsessed with making them happy. You don't want them to suffer. So love is wanting to give them every happiness. And compassion is wanting to remove their suffering. You don't want people to hurt. Just try to tap into those feelings. And then feeling that you will help all beings, even if nobody else helps you to do that. Never feeling discouraged, just taking it on yourself, getting it done. Just having that strong wish that you want all beings to be happy, you don't want them to suffer, and you will do whatever it takes to make that happen. All these thoughts in this meditation, those are all steps to reach that feeling, bodhicitta, to become a bodhisattva, which is the mission of a bodhisattva, is that, helping all beings. That's all that matters. Any worldly goals, there's nothing compared to the wish of becoming enlightened so you can help people. So just sit with that for another minute or two, quietly. Nice meditation, right?
It was easier than doing, how you do the graduated loving kindness when the person you like, you love, neutral to not neutral.
Yeah.
I found that a little easier when they're both being able to balance that you have at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I just did. Maybe because I didn't have the anxiety in my mind. Oh my God, I'm going to have to see. I'm going to have to go to the. It's there. It's kind of balanced.
Mm-hmm. Because you have them there at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to talk about some of the problems that you might encounter while you meditate. And it's not super easy, I find, to talk about them because you kind of have to experience them to really understand what it means. I'll do my best in explaining it in words, but really you just got to meditate, and then you can be aware of these problems and like, oh, look at this, I got this problem coming up right now. You can start to recognize them. So I think it could be helpful to know some of the things to look out for. I should ask if there's any questions about previous classes, if something's come up for you that you'd like to discuss, or I don't know, comments or anything. We haven't done a whole lot of review so far. But I just want to make sure that things are clear, and if you want to revisit something, you can let me know. Because what we've talked about, in the first class, we said, okay, there's going to be 5 parts to a meditation practice. So the first one was a preparation. So we learned how to set an altar, that we clean up the room, and all of that. The second part was the 6 conditions of the surrounding environment. So we talked about, what did we talk about? About environment. It was, some of the things were more related to retreat, but we could relate them to our home practice as well. Things like making sure that, when you're in retreat, that people there that support you kind of are on the same page of what you're doing. You got to make sure that you eat enough and not too much. Eating oily foods to keep you very grounded when you're doing a retreat. What else did we talk about? Yeah, the conducive environment. Yeah. Having a space where you feel safe, right? Yeah, that was it. Feeling safe and where it's quiet. It's nice to meditate on the same location every day if you can. Make a little spot in your house, right? Dedicate a little corner if you can. And then we talked about the bodily posture. And then today we start this mental process. And then the last step will be the object of meditation. So today's is the fourth part of this thing. So we're talking about the problems that we're encountering. So the very first problem that we can encounter is kind of a no-brainer. In Tibetan it's called lelo, and that's kind of what it means. You're feeling lazy. You're not doing it, right? And I always think that too when I teach a yoga class. I'm always amazed with people showing up because that's the hardest part. Last Sunday, it was Mother's Day, and it was this beautiful sunny evening, and I thought if I were to go to yoga class, I would not go. I would just stay home, sit in my yard or whatever. But there were 18 people that came. I'm like, where'd you all come from? This is crazy. I find that's often the hardest part. Once you're there, it's lovely, and you're glad that you went and you did all the effort you did. But just get yourself there. Some days can be tough. So same with meditation. So that's a problem. That's a big problem. You're not doing it, right? So that's the first problem. So for these problems that we're discussing today, we're going to have some solutions. So that's good. So what do you think would be a solution for not feeling like, not wanting to meditate? What would be a solution?
They both have that.
The same. The one thing I do, because I have this problem all the time, is just I say to myself, okay, you just have to meditate for a minute, and then when I start sitting, I'm compelled to sit longer.
So you trick yourself.
Yeah. I give myself permission to come out at any time.
Yeah.
Play with your minds.
Yeah, once I'm in, I'm in.
That's cool. I like that. So just sit down for a minute, and then you know that once you sit down, you're not going to be just a minute. Or maybe sometimes you are.
Well, sometimes it's shorter, but I rarely just stay for that. Only a minute.
Yeah. And what were you going to say, Kara?
Oh, yeah, I like that. I know we've got like lots of different voices in our heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I was thinking of a couple of things. First of all, that just to try remember what the advantages. Remember the purpose, the advantages. Keep that in mind. And secondly, I find a very pragmatic kind of thing is have a commitment. Somehow to commit yourself. Like I have the timers. Yeah. Very helpful for me. It's very attractive too. Yeah. I would want to check in and see who's meditating now. And I think, this is so fun. I'm going to do it. And also to have a group that does it. Like I know my meditation started off when Joyce and I started doing it together. It's just like, it's like it didn't take much, just a little bit of solidarity, and really helps.
To have someone that you're accountable to, right? That can really help you. Yeah, that's good. I like what you're saying a lot. Yeah. That whole,
And remembering how good it feels. Just remember it, because it feels good now. I want to do it. It's like it's like you'll go to yoga more and more as you realize, you remember more how good it feels as opposed to how hard it is to get there. You start remembering more about how good it feels.
Yeah, and then what happens? You create a habit, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's not so hard to go to yoga.
It's not.
Creating a habit so that you miss it when you don't do it.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. Yeah, you feel it, right? And that's why it's good to do meditation every day at the same time if you can. And then, for me, it's in the morning. My mornings are chaotic because the 3 kids need to get ready for school, and my husband, and they're all really loud. So when they all leave at 9 o'clock, it's like, woo! I feel like, wow, I survived that, great. And I feel like this huge relief, and this is when I sit down. And it's the best thing for me. It's like my favorite time of the day. And it's easy to make that consistent because aside from the weekends, every day the routine's kind of the same. So it's easy for me to sit down, and it feels like a reward for, surviving the chaos or something. Now you can, now it's your turn. Now you can sit down. So that works for me. And then if you miss it, you feel it. Yeah, once you sit down every day, it's like, oh, I'm missing something, you have that sensation. Yeah. So what they're saying here, Jason Kappa is telling us, is what Carol was saying. You have to really remind yourself why you're doing it. Understanding what it is you're trying to reach. Why should you reach this single pointed focus, that we're trying to achieve in meditation? So what are the good qualities of being able to have that, And we've talked a lot in the previous courses about the paths of a Buddhist path, right? And there's these 5 paths that are accumulation, preparation, seeing emptiness directly, habituating, and then no more learning. Okay, you don't need to know these right now, but I'm just saying that we have these paths, and only in deep meditation you move from one path to the next. Okay? And the first path is being sick of this life, really. You're tired of all the ups and downs and all the suffering that you encounter and you see in others. And you're just sick and tired of seeing that all the time, which is renunciation. So that all the things we strive for in our jobs, relationships, material possessions, none of them will last. They will all fall apart at some point. It will go up and down, moments of great, and then it just comes shattering down. This is the nature. This is what happens to everybody. Okay, when you get a nice new boyfriend, it's all fine and dandy at the beginning, but after a while you start to be annoyed by each other or whatever. Nothing stays the same. And even if you do have a relationship that's amazing till the end, then one of you dies. There's nothing that will last. And that feeling of I'm so sick and tired of this, that is the first step in a Buddhist path, and it's crucial. You need to want to get out of that cycle of pain. And we can. So the thing is that also in deep meditation, we'll have realizations, and the biggest one that we're after is the direct perception of emptiness. And when we have this experience after that, we can eliminate all of our afflictions, right? And thus reach nirvana. And from nirvana, we can reach total enlightenment. But all of this, we need to meditate for this. So that can be, when you need to remind yourself, why am I going to do this? Why am I going to meditate? Because it's possible to become enlightened. It is possible. And it's possible not to have pain anymore. It's possible to be a being that can just help everybody because you're no longer worried about all your own stupid stuff, You have overcome all of that. And now you're just a blessing to be near whoever, and you can help them. So that's a beautiful goal, And then along the way, if you get good at meditating, you'll have all these other great side effects that are nice, You become maybe more relaxed of a person, not so upset about things. You can, when you get further along, you can read people's mind, you can do some miracles, all of these things. It's nice. It's nice. Not the main goal, but it's nice to feel more balanced and feel, more grounded as you stand in the world and all of these things. So those are things that we can remind ourselves of why. Why to meditate? That's why. So then when you remind yourself of that, you start to want it. You want shamatha, you want that single-pointed focus, because you understand that you need it in order to become free of suffering. And when you have that single-pointed focus, it's way easier to live a very moral life because you're very aware of everything you say and think and do. So it's those 4 steps, I don't want to meditate, or I'm lazy to meditate, so the solution, part A, would be, okay, what Carol said, let's think about the advantages. And that will lead to letter B, now you want it, which will lead to C, is making the effort. Okay? Now you want it, so you're going to sit down every day, and you're going to create that habit, and you feel joyous about it because it is exciting. It's an exciting adventure. And then guess what happens? Practice ease is then D, It becomes natural and easy. And we said that, once you get that habit and you sit down every day, it's not hard to do it, and you'll get better at it as time goes, right? Just like anything, if you do it every day. I've said a few times already that I go to the gym and I go do this kickboxing fitness thing, and I started in September. And I can tell you that the first class in September, we have to start the class by 2 minutes of just running laps. And as you run laps, you have to do high knees, and then you have to do butt kickers and side shuffles. And just for a couple minutes, I couldn't do it. I mean, I did it, but I couldn't. And then I remember after that first class, I had to teach yoga at Main and 14th, and it's the big stairway. I could not get up the stair. And there was a student standing on top of the stair, and he's just laughing at me because it took me like 15 minutes to get up. But now I'm going 3 times, 4 times a week, and I have no troubles climbing that stairs at 9 and 14, right? So, hey, that means something changed because I did it all the time. I've been consistently doing it for 8 months, so it gets easier, which is D, practice ease, okay? That can be mentally and physically. For some of us, it's hard to sit. For me, it's hard to sit, but it gets easier if you do it every day. It does, just like anything. So those are the corrections that lead to wanting to do it. And it's powerful when you don't feel like doing it and you're making yourself do it anyways. So does that make sense? This first problem and the antidotes for that?
Confronting the self right away. Confronting what the self, what a self says, what one part of ourselves says. And having to subdue that in order to get to a greater goal.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have to debate it out in your mind, You have all these voices saying different things.
Trick yourself.
Yeah, but nothing else will last, It's our mind that we can take with us from life to life. The body and all the things, even our friends, our family, we cannot take anything with us, right? So to work on that one thing that can actually help us makes sense. All the rest is impermanent and will be lost. It's all suffering.
If we think of it right, and external events come at us all the time, and we don't know what's going to happen. And this is one thing, you always have your mind. You always have access to our mind, if we can work with that.
Yeah, and while our mind in this life is still clear and functioning.
And it's valuable too, remembering precious time and precious life.
Exactly. Because you don't know when it's going to end.
Or when your mind.
Yeah.
Or when our minds won't last. That deteriorates too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the first one. So then the second problem is, okay, you sit down, meditating, and then you just completely forget what you are meditating on because you're just doing other things in your mind, right? I mean, I guess forgetting isn't really the correct word. It's more like losing the object of your meditation. And I think it helps you to pick a time in the day that you don't feel completely busy with other things, Like if I'm working and I take a break of work and then I try to meditate, it might be very difficult for me to focus because I'm thinking of the work, right? So like I said, for me personally, it works really well when that first piece in the house arrives and I've not really looked at my computer yet or my phone or whatever, so I'm not sucked into these other things. So choose a time that works for you. That might help with this problem, right? So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I can see the computer and phone thing, and I'm just thinking about, I often get up and go for a short run in the morning. And I find sometimes my mind gets very busy on the run.
Yeah.
So I'd always thought I would get all my nervous energy out and then sit. But I'm wondering if it might make more sense to sit first
Try it.
and then and then go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run a few days a week too, and like meditate.
Yeah. And you find that works well. Yeah.
Some try both.
Yeah.
Like come back from the run, I find it hard to meditate.
Yeah. Adrenaline, yeah.
Try both and see what works better. Yeah.
Because I often wake up with a lot of anxiety. Like the first thoughts are often very anxious thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to. I thought I like the getting out and being active, but I wonder if it kind of sometimes feels like it feeds that.
Possibly. Yeah, you can, try to sit down and see if you can get grounded in that way. Yeah, try it.
Yeah.
See. It will be different for every person, so it's hard to answer that. But yeah, you just gotta try it. So the antidote for this losing the object of meditation completely would be remembering, which is kind of an interesting antidote, but you can recall, and when you again habituate yourself in doing that, checking every minute or whatever, am I still on the object or am I wherever you are, and just doing that over and over, keeping yourself really in check, remembering the object, and then after a while you might not have to do that anymore because you're staying more onto the object, right? So again, this is creating these habits, and at first it might be really difficult because you're fully pulled into the story and you're completely gone. But then if you can catch it and just bring it back, over and over again, eventually you should be able to stay more. But this problem is meant, it means you're completely on. You're not like half. You're gone. When you're kind of half, we're getting to that. So this is more gross, right? This is more, you're just gone, making shopping lists in your head or whatever. You're just not at all with what you're trying to do. And then, they say stick with one meditation for a long time. And that helps. And that will help you create that habit. If you keep changing the object, then it'll be harder to correct it. So, actually, I think in the text it says, pick one meditation, stay with it until you reach shamatha. So that would be, for some of us, a long time. It might get boring after a few months. So I'd say, stick to one for a few months. And then consciously make the decision, or if you have a teacher that helps you with this, then, say, can you tell me another meditation? And then you work on that one for 3-6 months, doing the same one every day. And that will help you.
So you do shamatha?
Yeah.
Is that not a single point of focus?
Yeah, where you can stay on the thing, focused for a long time. Like,
How do you know when you reach shamatha?
well, because you won't be off, Yeah, it'll be clear to you.
Oh, I know.
You can pick any object and stay with it. Because we all have that, I think it's called Tingen Zin, right? Where you can focus for a little bit, Even bugs have that. Like we all have that. Yeah. So shamatha would be the extension of that, okay, where you can actually stay with that. Yeah, stay with that focus. So now we're getting into the next problem, and this is important. I guess it's all important. But, it's called mental dullness and agitation. So, dullness, don't worry about it. So dullness is where the mind is dull, okay? So your mind is fixed on something, on an object. Sure. But you're buzzed out, like you're not feeling really clear, and this is very common in meditation, okay? This doesn't refer to the object, it refers to your mind, like you're fuzzy. It's like there's a veil between you and the object, okay? And you might think you're doing great because you're focused, but it's just not sharp, intense. It's more like blah. And you can stay there for a long time, okay? So this is a big enemy of meditation. One of the things that you'll notice is that after meditation, you won't really feel refreshed, perhaps, like you can when you have had a very clear meditation. Pabonka Rinpoche, he's talking about two words. He's saying fixation and clarity. So there's two kinds of dullness. So there's obvious and there's subtle dullness. Okay, so when you have obvious dullness, you have the object, so you're fixated on it, but you don't have this clear. So like I said, it's fuzzy. You're not like that veil, okay? The state of mind is veil. And then you have the subtle dullness. Here, you have fixation, you're fixed on the object, you have clarity, and you have intensity. So that's important. And these meditations can be easily mistaken for good meditation, okay? But it can actually result in feeling feeling not so clear in your daily life. It will translate. They say it's good for getting an animal rebirth. And you'll become forgetful in this life, and the powers of your intellect will diminish. So, or it's like someone who smoked marijuana for 20 years, they're kind of dull. They're not clear, okay? And how I find this easier to understand, this subtle dullness. Well, let me just say, I was at Science World this week, and with my kids, there's this thing that measures, you have to sit with a partner, and there's this ball. The more relaxed you are, then the ball will go to your partner. And so I did that, and I thought, I don't know, it reminded me of this, because you're really relaxed, yet I was super focused intensely on this ball moving, because I was hoping that I would win, right? But I was very relaxed, yet I was completely engaged with my object. And so I had this, object clear. I'm fully connected with what's happening. I'm fixated, clarity, and there's an intensity. So that's what you want in your meditation, just like that, right? Another example that I really like is, when you have a teacher and you feel, general respect or admiration, but then sometimes, you're just overwhelmed with gratitude or awe, and you just start to cry. And that would be, fixation, clarity, and intensity. When you're fully engaged, immersed in this object of your mind. Okay? So that's what we would go for. To be like that in your meditation, that would be a successful meditation where you're not dull and you're completely engaged in whatever it is you're meditating on, with fixation, clarity, and intensity. So gross dullness is you have fixation and clarity, and subtle, am I saying it right now? You have no clarity. Obvious dullness, you have fixation but no clarity. Subtle dullness, you have fixation, clarity, but no intensity. Okay. And this is what I'm talking about. It's hard to describe, but you have to sit down and meditate, and then you might think, oh, that's what she was talking about, okay? Because it's hard to put that in words, but when you sit down, you might hopefully start to recognize, okay, I think right now I'm dull, and that is, at this point in these antidotes, that's it, try to become watchful, check in. You're meditating and you check in. Am I being clear right now? Am I fixated? Is there intensity? Check it. And again, after a while, you don't have to do that anymore, but start to try to detect these problems, okay? So you can overcome them. So that's dullness. And then there's agitation. And agitation means here, you're just wandering. So it's not like you're completely gone off the object, but you kind of have to focus, but then all this other stuff is also going on, right? And often these are desirable objects, things that you like, it can be a virtuous object, like thinking about a teacher, or your mind wanders in virtuous objects, or it's like a desire thing, and then sometimes it's like bad thoughts, Often it's desire, like what you want for breakfast, or whatever the next thing is. What you have to do, your shopping list, or your cravings for chocolate, or speaking about food. So that's very common. It's very common. One of the things that happens for me a lot is that when I sit down and I seriously want to meditate, I get the best ideas. They pop up, I get amazing pictures in my mind for things I want to paint, or I get creative ideas or solutions to problems, which is all, can be useful and nice, but it won't help you. It's okay. Not opening.
There must be upstairs. Oh, you got it. Yeah, right there.
So, if you're like me, then you need to set out some time for that, or saying, okay, now I'm just going to sit and relax and just see all the beautiful, cool ideas that come up. That's fine. But now I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to stick with my object of my choice. And when my mind starts to wander, I'm going to come back to that, right?
Yeah. It's so hard though, right? It's so hard. Like, I'll think about that later. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I get worried. I get worried. I'll forget.
Yeah.
So is it possible to write it down? Is that distracting? That is distracting.
I do think it's distracting, but I recognize that a lot. Yeah.
But I guess you have to trust that it, we'll remember.
Yeah.
Put it in your head.
Is it any different if the thoughts are, or when the thoughts are negative? Is it the same thing? I always think of that image of the river and just kind of watching the thoughts go by. Yeah, because I lose the object of meditation and then get fixated on the negative thought.
So it's the same thing.
Just
Yeah.
watchfulness is the same thing.
Yeah. And and never worry about it. This is all very normal. So we don't want to beat ourselves up, because then we don't want to come back to meditate, right? If you think, I just suck, then you don't feel compelled to try again and again, So you should always rejoice in the efforts that you're making. And you are not in control in the moment whether you'll have a good meditation or not. Plus, is there such thing as a good meditation? What you might consider as a great meditation might not for someone else. You know what I mean? So you should try to just let go of all of that. Just sit down, put in your effort, do your best, rejoice in that what you did, and move on. And being hard on yourself has never done anybody any good.
Right. Rejoicing, catching yourself. I do that. I go, yeah, it's good. I know what I see that. Catch.
Yeah, and I think it also, if we think we're so great and we're so good at meditating, I don't know. I think it's better to stay humble and think there's always more to learn, to grow, and that's what should keep drawing you back, and yeah.
I think it's actually helpful to have negative thoughts, because of course you notice it, but if you don't, there's something going on, right? It's not real.
Yeah, and by meditating daily, you will become more aware of everything that's happening in your mind, right? And that's the whole purpose, that we become mindful, we become watchful, and then we take that into our daily life, and we will be better people because we're aware and we can take responsibility, And when you mess up and you start yelling at someone you love, you can say, okay, I'm sorry, and you can take responsibility, and then maybe next time try not to do it. But if there's no awareness, nothing, I don't.
I think it's just that being at the beginning of the mindfulness, I'm still in the phase where it's like just watching a lot.
Yeah.
Just not only when I'm sitting, but also in life, and having been previously unaware of how negative it is.
Yeah.
And then this process of becoming aware of that has been
smaller and smaller, more subtle negative things.
Absolutely.
You think about.
And you're seeing how impermanent they are because you go back to your breath, right?
Yeah.
It's not a permanent thing. It's not. Although it seems, it wants to seem so solid.
Exactly.
It can be hard. Yeah, when I first started meditating, I thought I was a pretty nice person. And then I start to meditate and I start to see what my mind's doing. Oh my God. And then I think I'm the worst person ever. You start to see and you put like a microscope on it. All of a sudden you see what your mind's doing all day and all the thoughts of judgment that you have, jealousy, whatever, is ugly. Ugly. But you have to see it. How can you heal from all of that if you never even see it? So it's amazing when you see it.
That's good.
It's really good when you see it. And I understand that's hard. For everybody, that's hard, You have this idea of yourself, and all of a sudden that's kind of shattered because now you see all the yucky stuff. And you can see it arise, You can start to see it come and feel it, and that's great because now you can work with that, and you can start to make changes.
When I see that, it makes me happy that I can correct it.
Yes.
So it makes me more.
Yeah. But it can be disturbing. It can be disturbing to see, whoa, that's what I'm thinking, when you never saw that before, when you never noticed that, and it becomes, like Val said, more subtle and more subtle, and then, you might not have any bad thoughts for a whole day, and then this tiny one comes up, and that one feels like it's massive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the massive ones are easier to recognize, but now when the subtler ones are starting to come out, it feels disproportionately
Right, yeah.
expansive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting process and powerful process, I'd say. Beautiful. And that will continue until you reach enlightenment, And it gets easier to deal with because you won't be so attached to them anymore. You see them come, you see them go. Like, I think Erica said that, right? You don't have to worry about them. You don't act on them. You just kind of see them come, and you don't worry about them. But at first, it can be kind of yucky, or really yucky.
And you're developing a space between noticing and reacting. So if you notice, you can keep yourself from being irritable.
Yeah. And if you don't notice, then
So sometimes you're able to have a gap between when something happens and you react, and you notice that you feel irritable and you don't react because you take action rather than immediately.
And not identifying with it. Because this is a feeling. It's not necessarily me. It's not.
Yeah. Because it's just that unpleasant feeling.
Yeah.
And you don't have to react.
no. And what's fun is to do the opposite. React in an opposite way. Say, I feel like I'm jealous of someone and I want whatever they're having in that moment. Instead of going with that feeling, flip it over on its back and then just offer them more of that, Very, very powerful when you do that because you're completely messing with your mind and you're creating a new habitual pattern this way of how you are in the world. And, when there's all these delicious cookies on the table and there's only one left and you want it, you really do. In that moment to then give it away, like that. Amazing.
We were talking about that a lot at the retreat this past weekend.
Yeah.
Was about this idea of balancing with opposites.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a woman there who was teaching Ayurveda, and she referred to them as perverted cravings. So when you do more of the thing that's going to keep the negative thought going, so if you wish someone who you're jealous of harm, it's like this perverted craving, like you want something bad to happen to them, but it actually just causes more harm, as opposed to if you do the opposite, sending them love and more of what they need, then that's the thing that can bring you back into balance.
It's beautiful.
And as well as sending out love to them. So this idea of cultivating the opposite, like to bring things back into balance, was very similar to what you're saying about to like turn it on its head.
Yeah. And it's like if you do react in that way, you're keeping that cycle going, right?
Yeah.
So now we're stepping outside of that cycle.
Yeah.
And that's very beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes it can just feel really counterintuitive. You really don't want to do it. But part of you knows that you should. Yeah, it's very cool. I guess I can keep going here for a little bit. So the next problem, so these dullness and agitation, the antidote is watchfulness, okay? So we discussed that. So you just watch if it's present, and say every 5 minutes, you're just saying, okay, am I dull? Am I agitated? What's happening? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, coffee helps, but I can't do coffee too well either.
Yeah, so you got to try to work with your diet also, I guess, and then choose those times of meditating where you feel the most clear. Never? I don't know if that's true. Anyways, you can definitely cultivate it, You can definitely try to cultivate it. So when the fourth problem then is not taking action, and this refers to that mental dullness and agitation. They give us some tips here on how to correct the dullness and the agitation. So basically, when you're dull, your mind is kind of down. It's a little bit depressing almost, right? When you're agitated, it's the opposite. You're more like you're hyper. Your mind's very active, jumpy, whatever. So dull is more down, okay? Agitation is more up. So what we must do is do this, The dullness we need to bring up, the agitation we must bring down. So we bring them to the middle. So how do you do that? So there's some tips here saying, okay, when you feel dull, you can think, so basically they're saying, okay, now you shift for a moment, okay? You shift from the object for a moment and think about how fortunate you are that you're even here. It's so rare to be in the position we are in. It's kind of normal to us, but it's not normal, if you compare our situation with, most other people in the world. There's a lot of people that have never even heard of meditation or any kind of thing about removing suffering, We're here with a good body, a good mind. We have this opportunity. We can study and we have time to meditate. We have, food, roof. You can go on and on. So basically, you're just thinking, you're uplifting yourself in thinking how fortunate you are to be here right now. Okay. So you are bringing joy, you're bringing brightness to your mind. And then you can try to go back again to that same object that you were. Other objects would be like thinking about your teacher, if you have a teacher, and how lucky you are that you have one. If you don't have one, of course, everybody that taught you anything in this life is your teacher. So you can thank all of your teachers that have brought you here. Thinking about the good qualities of a Buddha. You can also just think about a bright light, just like the bright sun or something. Right? So things like that to brighten things up again and bringing you back up. Okay. So learning that art of tuning up the mind. And dullness is where your mind has gone too low. And, that can be hard. It's hard. It's like telling someone, try to be fresh when you feel tired. So there will probably be some resistance to bringing up your mind. Just try it. Now, if that still didn't work and you still feel really dull, then you can just stop the meditation for a bit, get some fresh air or splash some water on your face, look at the open sky or, stuff like that. Have a little stretch, whatever, and then try again. So that is the antidotes they give for that dullness. So you should just try it and see if that works for you when you encounter that problem. First, you're gonna meditate at home and just see what of these problems, which ones are coming up for you. So then for agitation, like I said, you're up too high. You're so active and busy. So what do you think will bring you down? Now they say, the first thing you do is mentally loosen up on the object of meditation. If that doesn't work, you shift your mind for a moment to a sobering thing, which is death, right? As the perfect one to bring you down. Or suffering, or, something like that.
Wouldn't that cause some
Try it and see. The idea is to bring your bouncing, so bring yourself down to think sobering thoughts, and that hopefully will then motivate you to be focused on. And this might work for you, it might not. They're just tips that you can try out, and we're all unique, so we all need to figure out what is the best way for us to help ourselves in these situations, right? So death can be a good one for some people, thinking about how we must die. There's just so much suffering in the world, and hopefully that can just bring you down. If that doesn't work, you go back to counting your breath. And then you try again, like that. No, not in here. No.
I usually have a busy mind, so then I always do that before I meditate. I do breathing exercise,
Yeah,
alternate nostril breath.
yeah. It's not mentioned here, but definitely, it's good. Often they do recommend you to start your meditation with counting the breath, being aware. And this is really to get you into a neutral zone. And then you do your preliminaries and then you move into your meditation. But yeah, you can do any pranayama that, again, what works for you, right? But it's not mentioned here. Now, the last problem that they mention is taking action when it's not necessary. And that might seem obvious to you, but when you can, at some point you don't have to check in anymore and see if you're dull or agitated. You're not of the object anymore, and you're still kind of used to checking in and making adjustments if necessary. But at some point you don't have to do that anymore. So you need to be aware when that time is for you, when you shouldn't take any action and just go. My teacher a few weeks ago, he sent me this YouTube video of this teacher, and I watched it, and it really started messing with me. And after 2 days, I said to my teacher, I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna watch this stuff anymore. And he's like, oh, that was fast. And that was his whole thing. He wanted me to figure out that at some point, you're past certain things. You don't need to revisit and try to learn something when you already know it, right? And that's like this, at some point, you're hitting this place where you can just meditate, you can go, and you don't need to make all the adjustments. And when that happens, then do that and leave it alone. So that's the last problem. Don't take any actions if you don't need to. So those are the third. Is there any questions about this? Does it make sense what we've discussed today? Yeah. Hopefully it's helpful. But again, yeah, you just have to go and do it, right? And then you can see if you can apply this information. I would definitely recommend to read it over and use it when needed.
Because we're just starting, the mental dullness and agitation happens more often than.
Absolutely. It will start. It will be more than later on. Yeah. Again, because now you start to notice it all. You may have not noticed it before, and maybe you thought I'm a pretty good meditator, and then after hearing this, you're like, okay, maybe I should make sure I'm not completely agitated.
It's just because it happens so often.
Sorry?
The dullness and the clarity and fixation wasn't that clear.
Mm-hmm.
So because you are still learning, it happens more often than.
It will. Yeah. Am I? Yeah, definitely. You'll notice it. Hopefully, and then over time it'll get less. Yeah, it will. Must, right? It must. Like anything, like I said, running the laps in the gym was a hell for me the first time. and now it could be easy. So if you do every day, it should get easier and better, and you should make progress. Definitely. Yeah, so don't feel discouraged if you think your meditation isn't going well. Making the effort to sit down. And like I said, you're never in control in the moment, you know, how your meditation is going to be. So all you do is just your best, and then you just have to let go. Some days will be maybe amazing, other days will be horrible, and that's just the way it goes. And you just sit down every day and try. Yeah. So that's class. So next week we will have a class, and then the 2 weeks after that we'll have another break. So I'm sorry about that.
How long are you?
I'm going for 11 days.